contacted me, unless Mrs. Wood would like to address the board.
No? Okay. So then at this point, I need a motion to enter closed session for the reasons stated on the agenda. Motion made by Josh Calvert, seconded by Matt Wood. Call roll, please.
Campbell.
Yes.
Guerrero.
Yes.
Gilbert.
Yes.
Leeper. Yes. Stahl.
Yes.
Wood.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
To accept the closed session minutes as read in closed session. Motion made by Jeff Stahl. Is there a second? Matt Wood. Call roll, please.
Guerrero.
Yes.
Gilbert.
Yes.
Leeper. Yes. Stahl.
Yes.
Wood.
Yes.
Browning.
Yes.
Campbell.
Yes.
I need a motion to employ Angie Sharulik as a long-term substitute business teacher effective January 3rd, 2022 through the end of the 2021-2022 school year.
So moved.
Motion made by Martha Leeper. Is there a second?
Second.
Jessica Browning, call roll, please.
Gilbert.
Yes.
Leeper. Yes. Stahl.
Yes.
Wood.
Yes.
Browning.
Yes.
Campbell.
Yes.
Guerrero.
Yes. I need a motion to accept the resignation of Brandy Kelly as middle school principal effective at the end of the 2021-2022 school year.
So moved.
Motion made by Matt Wood. Is there a second?
Second.
Josh Hilbert, call roll, please.
Stahl.
Yes.
Wood.
Yes.
Browning.
Yes.
Campbell.
Yes.
Guerrero.
Yes.
Gilbert.
Yes.
Leeper. Yes.
And on to the consent agenda. Does anybody have any questions regarding the agenda you received? So I need a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Motion made by Martha Leeper. Is there a second?
Second.
Josh Hilbert, call roll, please.
Wood.
Yes.
Browning.
Yes.
Campbell.
Yes.
Guerrero.
Yes.
Gilbert.
Yes.
Leeper. Yes. Stahl.
Yes.
And on to the superintendent's report.
As I mentioned on my recommendation page to you, after spending a good portion at the end of September and the beginning of October at the middle school, and in a lot of discussion with Mrs. Kelly, I think we're in agreement that a need for another person over there to work on the social emotional aspect of the learning process for the kids, something that we really need at the middle school level. Really, the position could be utilized 3 through 8. The issues aren't specifically just middle school, but there are a lot of issues at the middle school. Part of the problem is that when you're the administrator over there and you're dealing with, and I saw this firsthand, you get something that you have to deal with right off at the beginning of the school day, it can pretty much take up your entire day. And then if you have a student with an issue, you have a parent that you need to contact, some of those things get pushed off to the back burner, and then you have angry parents because you've not notified them in a timely manner. The role of this person, Mrs. Kelly did create kind of a job description, which I provided for you in your board packet. I think there's a lot of things that this person could do over there. And I know it's another full-time position. It's going to be some money, but part of the ESSER 3 money could be dedicated to the social emotional needs of our students. And whether that position is going to last a year, 2 years, 10 years, I don't know. But I can say it's something that I personally believe that we need right now. And it's also a hard transition sometimes as a building principal to be the disciplinarian and then have to transition to the role of social worker, especially when it's the same kid that you're talking about. So I don't know if you guys would like to add anything as far as, I'm sure that I kind of wish Mrs. Kelly could have been here. I think she could have sold it to you guys maybe better than what I have, but just experience it firsthand. Our kids are anxious and they need help. And I think helping them at that level produces a much better student and prepares them much better for coming over to high school.
I think maybe the only question I have is the salary expectations is just years of experience. Is that in line with educators? Or is that a different scale?
I think part of it is, what I would like to do is I would like to post it right away and see if we can find somebody qualified to take over and be here second semester, or work with Mrs. Kelly and Mrs. Summer during this second semester. If we find a person like that, I doubt if they're going to be a certified person, a certified position, but I don't know. A lot of it is being able to find that quality person. I would rather leave it open than find somebody, or just put somebody in there that's not going to meet our needs. So I don't know if that really answered your question or not.
What will we do contract, I mean, like I think I mentioned this to you when you mentioned it to me, that we went from one administrator covering everything to two, and now we're adding a third, so my pocketbook is like freaking out. I understand the need, and I understand probably more of the need even coming off of COVID. But is this an open-ended, we're not, this person is going to be an at-will person? Are they gonna have a yearly contract, or how are they, what is your anticipation of that? And can we use all ESSER money to pay for them, or no?
Well, we can really do just about whatever we want with the ESSER money because of the way that I wrote the grant. In that most of it is going back into working cash, which can be pulled out at any time and put into any fund. So, $580-some thousand will be set aside in working cash. It can be placed wherever we need for this position. Again, with the length of time, I don't know. I can't imagine it being a semester and being done. I can't really imagine it being a couple of years and being done. I think it's.
I guess where would, I mean, if you go back to, if it's not a teacher, then a certified teacher, then it's not, you're not dealing with tenure.
Right.
So when you get to the point where if that person's potentially not needed anymore, then that person is just let go.
I think if we got to the point that we felt like we were comfortable without that position, then we could certainly do that. It's give them enough advance notice and say this position's going to end at the end of the school year. As far as making it a union position, I think that's something that probably I need to work out with Jamie, and I don't know. I don't know if I want to be a union position just because of that. And that way we do not have to have a reduction in force or something like that a few years down the road. But we could structure the salary very similar to what we've done with the school nurse, and that we brought her in at a baseline starting teaching salary and provided benefits and kind of went from there. And that's what I could see possibly doing with this position.
And you're seeing it for only through 8, or where the person could?
I think it would be a stretch to try to get them down to the intermediate or the primary building. I think 3A is, that person would have plenty to do.
I talked to Ms. Kelly about it today because I just wanted to hear more about it, is that we hadn't really talked about it. And the way she explained it to me is that at least for the remainder of this year, that it would be 6 to 8 working in her building to support those students. So I told her I would want to work with them more to like really determine what we had on our end. And just make sure that if it would, I mean, I think our needs are different. And I think her needs are bigger in that aspect. We have more of that relationship base with our students staying. I mean, I'm not saying we don't have the need for social emotional support in our building, but since our teachers are in the classroom with them, they have the ability to watch them and build that relationship with them all day.
think helping out with the transition from fifth to sixth grade, I could see that person playing a role in that. And as far as the high school goes, we do have a counselor here at the high school.
We have a social worker district line as well.
Yes.
That goes grade K through 12 with teachers that does a lot of.
Yeah, and he's down by the,
He's stretched very thin
Yeah.
right now.
he has to meet his IEP students in all of the buildings, so it's not like that person could help take the load off of his plate because,
Right. But I'm saying we have those them to go to the other buildings where the need is if needed.
again, I think that it's a position where once the person settled in and was comfortable, if there was an emergency or something or an absolute need in one of the other buildings, I think that person could absolutely go and help out wherever needed. But I think the focus needs to be in the Indianapolis campus right now.
What about other districts around?
I know that Meridian talked about having a person doing that, and I don't know, I would assume that most districts around us would have some sort of guidance counselor at the middle school level.
I talked to them, when I talked to Ms. Kelly today, I asked her more about like the title of just being a student services coordinator in general, because from where my background, that role is different than the job description, so she was talking me through like the differences. Because they have student services coordinators in DPS, and they do very different things in regards to placement for alternative schools or determining like location and logistics of where students would go or homeless support, that kind of thing. So I didn't really, the job description didn't fit what I had in my mind, but she said that her familiarity with the county schools, I think she said Mount Zion uses this terminology, and Meridian was also the district that uses it.
What would you have called it?
I don't know, like, what I explained to her on the phone is, to me, it sounded very social worker. So it sounds like social work support, in my opinion. But for some of the things that we were describing, it seems like a blend of, like, what I'm used to being a liaison, like a parent-student liaison. Like, Decatur has what's called parent liaisons, but they work with students too. But usually when you're working with that kind of like issues of getting supports that they need, you're working with the student and the family. So Decatur has what's called parent liaisons. So I feel like it was a blend of like that kind of thing with the social work too. I mean, the title, I guess, I don't know what, it's kind of indifferent as long as the job description goes with what you need, but I felt like the job description was really like heavy social work and the restorative practice, that kind of thing. Which is, I mean, there's a lot of training on that out there right now.
And the job description could change from one year to the next, based on the needs of our students and our buildings, so.
Does anybody have any other questions on it? Do you see it posting it immediately and hoping to hire somebody January or to start January?
I would like to have somebody in place, but I'd like to have somebody in place working with Mrs. Kelly for the second semester.
I don't have a problem doing it. I mean, we have to rely on you to tell us what your needs are, and if ESSER money can help offset it, all the better.
Next up is the teacher evaluation MOU. Again, as I described in my recommendations to you, last school year, IASB gave us the option of not completing teacher evaluations because of all the kids missing school, all the COVID-related absences, that sort of thing. And they decided to do that again this year, but they waited until October, late October to make that announcement, which by that point, we were kind of in the process of doing the teacher evaluations. But one of the things that has been a concern in some other districts as well is just the student growth piece and just pulling that out of the evaluation and that final summative grading. And again, that relieves some of the pressure on the teachers. It also reduces some of the work on the principals as well. So I would recommend that we enter into agreement to do that. Again, we don't know what's going to happen, what's going to come forward. We can have a lot of kids missing school over the course of the next month, maybe 2 months. Who knows what's going to happen? And again, just having that piece removed, I think will put some minds at ease. And we're still going to go through the process. They'll still have a summative grading. They're just that part of the process to do. And then the last part for the superintendent's report, I had the fast bridge assessments, and I was going to have Mr. Field go over that with you guys.
I think I sent you guys a report just online, kind of summarizing everything. We don't have a tremendous amount of data to look at because we've only done one testing. But last year we really took a look at everything we were doing because we had map assessments from roughly 2nd, 3rd grade up through 10th grade, which is a benchmark, which means it's 3 times a year to kind of look and judge student academic process in both reading and math. But then with that too, we would progress monitor students who were in the midst of interventions and the students with special ed IEP goals to track their progress. So math did not have a component for that, so we were using Ames Web. But then at the primary building, we were using FastBridge to do those 2 things. And so we formed an assessment committee to, long story short, kind of look at everything that we were doing, determine, what are our needs. And we noticed a lot of, we're doing a lot of assessment in lieu of also our state testing, which takes away from instruction. Once we really got crunching the numbers on it, we saw that we could provide a cost savings to the district that was pretty significant too by just streamlining everything into one place. So we decided to just go with FastBridge for everything from K through 10. It has our progress monitoring, our benchmark components, so that we can do those things and have it all in one spot. Also with the progress monitoring, it was able, we were able to use that to do a little quicker version too with the students using the online component, especially in the higher grades. So a lot of good things there. We obviously will not, until we get more data over this year, to judge growth and to see kind of where we're going. And as we start kind of getting some data over the years, like we had with math testing and some other stuff, we can kind of get a clearer picture. We're still kind of trying to learn how to navigate this ourselves right now because it's a little different, even though a lot of the things are the same. The data is the same. And it's really a richer assessment, I think, once we get, diving a little deeper into it. You can tell from what I sent you there, really the brass tacks of it is our reading scores district-wide. Again, this only goes through 10th grade for the high school. Then the only students in 11th and 12th grade that we assess are students that have IEPs or in direct instruction special education classes. But we found 21% in our reading scores were what we would consider probably like a college pathway, very high average to excellent scores there. And then we had 31% who would fall just in what would be considered like the high average rating, with 28% being kind of in the low average, and then a 20% that would be where we consider kind of at risk. And then within that then would be even where you're under what's considered the 10th percentile, which would be the bottom 10% of the population in our norms, which are where we really see like interventions for special education services and things like that, significant disabilities. Within math, we had 13% that were in that upper echelon there, and we had 29% in that average, high average, 40% in what's considered the low average, and then 18% that would be in the more significant at-risk category there. So a lot of times, from the one test in the fall, we you don't get a real clear picture, because a lot of times the kids are like, especially coming off the pandemic, they're like, oh, what are we doing with this? Some of them blow it off and stuff, or they say, oh, wait, if I show more growth, then it'll be even higher, next time I'll get a treat or something. So it'll be telling to kind of see where we progress and what these numbers do as we go into our winter testing, and then again in the spring when we'll assess for the last time, and we'll have a little bit, better picture. But so far, we're pretty happy with it, especially the streamlining of it and stuff. I think that once we get a little more used to it, and just the ins and outs of the system, that we're gonna like it. So
What kind of time does it take each time you test? Is it a couple of days or?
it just kind of depends on the kid. Most kids, I think, like at the high school level, I can speak to, we get done with an assessment typically in reading or math in a class period. I mean, it takes about 40 minutes. Some kids take a little longer because it's not time. So, for whatever reason, they can take, all the class period and they make up the rest of it in advisory or study hall, or they finish the rest of it up the next day. But we're usually done in a day here, I know.
What do you guys see in the intermediate?
The intermediate, we do either like 1 or 2 reading or math per day, and they're pretty short assessments. I don't think any of them go beyond the 45 minutes, and some of them are, I know, there's a math one that's like 5 minutes. They're short. In my opinion, I believe they're shorter than what we're previously accustomed to. And one thing that Mr. Field didn't address, because we're not really into it yet, but it kind of speaks and lends itself to the position that Ms. Kelly was talking about. There's an option in FastBridge called Savers, and it's a social emotional. It's kind of like, so you have the students fill it out, and then after the teacher has spent some time with the student, the teacher will fill it out. And it's just a nice comparison to see like what you perceive the student to be after you grade them, to see where they perceive themselves to be. And that's some of the data then that would be looked at by that person that she was considering. That data would be looked at to see like where the red flags are in advance, because they're reporting in a way that's private, and they know that you're going to see it, and you just kind of, it's building data for that person to utilize to look and see where their needs are. And I don't know what FastBridge offers in regards to that, because it was pretty new when I learned about it, but I don't know if they're building in, FastBridge's RTI support's built in, so I don't know if they're gonna build in RTI supports, or if they're even already there for the Savers component on it or not. And you can administer that as many times a year as you want to see like if the temperature of a student has changed. My experience with it is you do it at the beginning of the year, and then when they come back from Christmas break, you see kind of where things are, where their attitudes and perceptions are. For the most part, it's just really interesting to see when, as a teacher, I've marked a student that I thought was doing well, but then they mark themselves as really low, and the red flag pops up, and then you just kind of figure out the puzzle pieces as to why. And I think that she was talking about that person utilizing that data to support those kids with that tool, because, right now we don't have a tool other than what we perceive. So just the first step in it.
And I assume at the end of the year, that'll be one of the reports that you'll give as one of our assessment reviews. Okay? Anything else?
As far as this position, I think what I'd like to do is post it and see what we get, and I'll keep you guys updated on applicants and that sort of thing. And kind of go from there. And maybe give you an update, or maybe even possibly have somebody for you at the December board meeting. I don't know.
So I really want to go into new business, or do you want to?
I'm ready for new business if you are.
Okay, I'm ready.
The tax levy I presented to you guys at the October board meeting. It is set to 20 days necessary. All we have to do is adopt the tax levy this evening, and then I will go around to the courthouses and file the levy. And we all complete?
ahead and motion to adopt the resolution abating the taxes levied in 2021.
Wait a second.
There's one at the bottom.
There's one at the
first
bottom,
page.
first page.
Sorry.
That's
Motion to-
next.
Yeah, motion to adopt the tax levy for 2021 payable in 2022.
So moved.
Motion made by Martha Leeper, is there a second? Second. Trustee Browning, call roll please.
Browning?
Yes.
Campbell?
Yes.
Guerrero?
Yes.
Hilbert?
Yes.
Leeper? Yes. Stahl?
Yes.
Wood?
Yes.
Now, we
Now,
move on to the
You're supposed
resolution.
to read that.
I just want to go here. Motion to adopt the resolution abating the taxes levied in 2021 for 2022 school year to pay debt service on the general obligation school bonds, alternate revenue source series 2019B of Community Unit School District Number 9, located in Macon, Sangamon, and Christian County, Illinois. Motion made by Josh Hilbert, is there a second? Lauren Campbell, call roll please.
Campbell?
Yes.
Guerrero?
Yes.
Hilbert?
Yes.
Leeper? Yes. Stahl?
Yes.
Wood?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
And then we discussed the student growth being taken out, so I need a motion to enter into an agreement with the SBEA to waive the student growth fees of the teacher evaluation process for the 2021-2022 school year.
So moved.
Motion made by Lori Campbell, is there a second?
Second.
Matt Wood, call roll please.
Guerrero?
Yes.
No. Is it a
It's a
voice
voice.
vote?
I'm sorry, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. And the resolution committee chairperson over here.
Yay. All right, you all got your wonderful packets last month, and I'm sure you read them thoroughly. But for those of you that didn't get time to read the whole thing, I made the cheat sheet version for you. So I hope you got to look through that. There are 16 resolutions that we will vote on, that I will cast our district's vote for on Saturday. There are some position statements that we will just reaffirm. Really, nothing's changed on those. But the process is interesting. We participated in it one year. Each of these resolutions has been brought forth by a school district. It seems like Champaign School District has been very busy this year. They put several motions up, several motions. And you go before the resolutions committee for IASB and you state your case, your rationale, present your position. And then they will, and they're a committee of about 20 people, I think, from around the state. They discuss it, ask questions back, and they ultimately make a decision on whether they will support your resolution or encourage the voting delegates to adopt it or to not adopt it. So the document that I sent you just a couple days ago gives you each of the 16 resolutions, just a sentence or two about what it is in a nutshell, and then the committee's recommendation, either to adopt or not adopt. Generally, we pretty much go down the line with the committee. Several of these probably don't even come into play for us. There are some interesting ones. Number 5, remote virtual school board open meetings, leaving that in the Open Meetings Act, that we can continue even outside of the pandemic, to not have to have a quorum on site to hold meetings. Some curriculum. And again, these are resolutions that then the IASB legislative personnel will take to the Hill and try to lobby for. It doesn't guarantee it's going to become a law, but they work for the school districts, so they will try to get something going on these statements. Number 15, no, that's not it. Let me find it. Okay, it's number 2. Number 2 will be interesting. This one comes up every year. We have Southern Illinois schools that want the right to have administrators, teachers, to have concealed carry and be able to carry in schools. Northern school districts will have nothing of it. It looks like this is the first time that I've seen the resolutions committee suggest to adopt on this, and it becomes a local control issue for these schools that put it up. They don't have a school resource officer. The response time from anywhere is lagging, so they, they want to have an option to protect their children in a situation that God forbid should happen. So we'll see where this one goes. This is where the TV crews come in. They want to see what's going on. They want to interview afterwards, and it'll be interesting. So that one has made it to the do adopt line. The other one I thought was interesting, this is the last one, number 10, cannabis sales. So the year we did our resolution, we joined with New Berlin, and we proposed the 1% state sales tax just be across the board. Right now, it's by county. Each county has to decide, have a referendum whether they want to have it. Oh no, we can't have that. We got voted down on that. Every county should get to decide. But now, they say it's okay that across the state, we're going to take 20% of sales tax revenues from cannabis sales. And we were talking 1% of just general sales tax. Times change, I guess. So these are the resolutions. If there's any you want to pull out, you want to talk about, any that we want to not follow the recommendations, and that's fine. I vote the way our board wants to vote.
My only no is the gun. My stance on that, I feel like it needs to be, a trained, licensed professional. If it's some type of security person that's been trained, or it's some type of officer that's doing it on his off time or retired or whatever, I just don't think our teachers or school personnel need to be.
I agree, and there's more to it than what I gave you, so, read farther in here. But the other thing to remember is, nobody's telling you you have to do it. For those districts that feel like it's an option they would like to have, I don't have a problem hearing their rationale. Just, let's say this went further and it even got far enough that it became a law. It doesn't mean that Sangamon Valley has to do it at all. It just gives an option and another means of protection for districts that are in different positions than we are. It's a local control thing, and that's what IASB tries to do for the most part. So, but that's up, if you want to talk about that one and vote differently on that, I can.
I would go to strong no, number 2.
I'm going to go around the table and see if we want to poll or no. Josh?
I would say no.
If they want to do it, it's fine.
I don't know.
I'm either way, I'm curious.
I've listened to it for years, and I understand where the people that put this up come from, so I don't have a problem with it. I guess it would be either way. I don't think we're getting very far on this.
Well, that's 4 to 3, so.
I can just abstain on that one, I suppose. You want me to?
Yeah, I would say at the very least, just so that we can vote, so.
I think my other concern is that even if it's up to everybody's own control now,
Where's it going?
then where's it going from there? And they make it something that, could they make it that you have to allow it, and then we just lost control of it.
Yeah, I can't
Yeah, I mean,
guarantee or tell you that far. I'll be surprised if it ever gets any farther than Chicago,
I
really.
don't think.
I mean, this weekend, and it may not even pass up there, and so if it doesn't, then it goes nowhere,
Teachers and administrators don't have to worry about, they don't need that to, additional responsibility.
And I think they're saying any staff, support staff, bus drivers, anybody could potentially be that person that was to get their training and license or whatever, but I don't know. I'm just still, in this day and age, a little uncomfortable with it, but I don't know that we'll see it anytime in our lifetime.
exactly, when they will say, let's give federal funding to landscaping, and let's give federal funding, there was one other one I thought. Yeah, the rationale on that one was they didn't want to take federal money away from more important things, if you read their rationale. But then landscaping, yes, let's give money to landscape your buildings. So, yeah, I think that's kind of,
If we can get the federal government to pay for some solar panels on the roof so we can save some money on our power bills, that would be great. So, I think we should go to adopt that one.
yeah, that one, I mean, that one would be, to me, would be possible for any district. Now, I see number 12, electric school buses, they said don't adopt that one because that's not going to be possible for everybody. I get that. But I didn't understand number 11 either. And number 13 when,
That's not a big deal.
yeah,
They're running an Anchorage right now.
they're what?
They're running an Anchorage right now. Electric
Really?
School buses.
Yeah.
Who funded that though?
I just saw it. Everyone else says it's too cool, don't run it, but they're running there.
Well, okay. Clean energy. Shall I vote for it? Would you rather I vote for it?
I would think so.
Matt? Opinion in the right? Yes.
On that number 11?
Yeah.
Yeah, if we
Just
get
go the other
grant
way.
money to put in distance, then yes, we want that.
Yeah.
I'm not too worried about the landscaping myself.
No, I'm not either.
And I wasn't really worried about the electrical ones, but I just really think it was a little fun.
I'll put them around the athletic field. Then we'll talk. Josh,
I'm fine either way.
okay. You got everybody?
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll change number 11. I'll vote to adopt on that one. This year, I will say, last thing, it's always made me laugh. Every year, how we vote is the most arcane thing that we ever do. We would raise our hands in this room of like 300 people, and people would be stationed around to count, and then they would write the number on a Post-it note, and they'd take it to the back of the room, and somebody would add all the Post-it notes up. It was ridiculous. This year, we're voting on an app. So we'll have a session number. I know, it should actually be legitimately fair this year.
A little embarrassing.
Yeah, all right.
Okay, so then I guess our motion needs to be to adopt the IASB resolutions as amended
As amended.
by the resolutions committee. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Okay.
And
Thank you
then,
for the little cheat sheet.
You're welcome. There's a lot to read in here,
and then the final.
Do you want to talk about the Christmas party?
Yeah, sure. It's Saturday, December 11th, and last year we were unable to use the school for our paint party. This year I'm hoping that we can use the school cafeteria. That's the only part of the school. Inside we would want to use for just a couple hours for our paint party. We would charge kids like $10 for a canvas, and Mrs. Clem and her husband do the whole paint party and have the canvases ready to go. Just a fun activity for the kids to do. And then in the evening, we really enjoyed the outdoor movie because of COVID. We kept the movie outdoors. So the township has graciously given us money to have the big outdoor screen, and they can tune in on their radio and listen, and we serve hot chocolate and popcorn to their cars. And so we would just want to use the front parking lot area and the cafeteria for that reason on Saturday, December 11th.
So we need a motion to allow the Village of Elleopolis to use the intermediate cafeteria and parking lot
Sorry about the kid back there.
for the annual Christmas festival on December 11th, 2021, assuming that it will be sprayed and everything just like the Halloween party, correct? After or before school
Yes.
starts on Monday?
My stance would be the same as it is. I mean, I'm fine with the outdoor aspects, but I don't think the current restrictions and mandates in place, we should be putting more events in the school.
We have limited, oh,
Gotta
sorry.
do mask and.
Yes,
social
there will be
distancing.
masks and worn by all, and we limit to 40 canvases. I can decrease that number That would be 40 painters. And then if they're young, it's ages 5 and up. So if they're younger, then that would be a parent with them during that time. So if you want further restrictions on that, such as 1 parent per kid, or just a max of like 20 to 30 paintings, that's completely up to you and how you want us to use the cafeteria, if at all. So.
I didn't have to agree with Josh on this one. I don't know if someone posted on Facebook on the Halloween party where a woman in the very front of the picture had a mask down around her chin. So even if, you know, we ask people to wear masks, it's clearly not something that is being done.
I believe also at the Halloween party, there's no school official. I will be there the entire time.
Is this 40 all at one time, or the filtering in for you?
The hours are usually between 1 and 3 or 2 and 4. So, and it takes about 2 hours to do your painting. We do spread out, so there's only like 3 paintings on each side of the table. And like I said, I'm there the entire time during the painting. And Mrs. Clem is there as well. So you have 2 staff members that are there for the whole thing.
Okay. I guess at this point, I mean, my comment, I guess, is parents are taking their kids everywhere and doing all kinds of things every weekend, and I think that's probably why we're in the position we're in. Across the state, nobody's really being as careful as they should be. I do feel better that there'll be school employees on hand to kind of oversee everything and make sure everyone's mask wearing appropriately. So at this point, I need a motion to allow the Village of Illiopolis to use the intermediate cafeteria for the annual Christmas festival on December 11th. So moved.
It's cafeteria and parking lot, correct?
And parking lot.
Just not
Sorry.
cake.
No cake.
No
Right.
cake. Okay,
For their
got it.
annual Christmas festival on December 11th, 2021. Motion made by Roy Campbell. Is there a second? Jeff Stahl. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
So motion passes 5-2. Next regular meeting, does anybody have anything else before I go into that? So next regular meeting scheduled for December 13th at 6. Hopefully nothing else is scheduled that night. Sometimes we run into those things. And we'll look forward to seeing a synopsis of your Chicago trip when you come back. At this time, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.